A very good noon to all of you, and thank you so much, Dr. Jere, Dr. Ellen, the whole team sitting out here, Ms. Silva, Pankaj, Ajay, and our whole MIC team to organize such a session on a very auspicious day, what I believe is for people in IP domain and innovation space like us. It is a day when everyone across the world they talk about IP, deliberate about IP, and actually see how we can harness this intellectual capability of this human race to move forward to make this world a better place. This initiative, as Dr. Allen mentioned and Dr. Jere also mentioned, from our innovation cells end, we have started Kapila in remembrance of none other than our beloved late President Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, who always shared or always had a vision about how to make India great. And we believe, rather very strongly believe, until and unless we protect our IP, Bauddhik Sampada, till then we cannot reach the pinnacle. We cannot achieve what is desired. And moving forward, what Dr. Jere mentioned, taking clue from there, that is a lot of pointers he gave, a food for introspection, I believe, to all of us. I'll be taking forward from those notes. And frankly, friends, today, I'm not going to brief about what is IP. Because I believe as on today, you must be attending a lot of sessions which are happening across the country today, because myself, this is like fourth or fifth session of the day where we are participating and discussing about IP. But in this session, I actually wanted to ponder upon, I actually wanted to put in the viewpoint that why, after all, IP is important, and that too in academia. Why? A lot of talks are happening. People are talking about there are number of IPs, so many different IPs are there. There are patents, copyrights, trademarks, and GIs, brand names, whatnot. A lot of teaching is happening. And during the lockdown, I believe, or since past one and a half year, when this hybrid learning or these webinars started happening, IPR or awareness about IPR is one such topic which is doing every nook and corner, or maybe round the clock, you can see something or the other thing happening about IP awareness. Moving forward, and IP, as in we say, all of us, I'm sure you are aware of those who are, comparable of that group which has seen making of or inception of Google during the times, or who just graduated during the days where there were no searching mechanism, no internet, and then transitioned while their job scenarios achieved, that a lot of information started flowing in. And that's the reason I have put in the line that we say we are in the information age today. And it's been past, how many? I believe 15, 20 years. A lot of data inflow is there. Overall, the concept, what we believed about, the tangible assets, the property. Yes, in developed economies, it was there. That scenario was there since long. But even in developing countries like ours, we say Intellectual property has just entered into the nook and corner of, or rather just around the corner of us. As we see in a knowledge-based economy, everything, it revolves around about our ideas, the concepts, the thought process, what we are doing, the interactions we are having, even our today's talk. So what it is: flow of data, flow of information, sharing of knowledge, sharing of thoughts. Here, I believe universities and research institutions, they play a key role in upliftment of the economy. And that's why we say we are in the knowledge-oriented economy. As we are moving forward, as we are growing, as our literacy rate is moving up, more and more people are crossing barriers. We're able to shape our thoughts. We are able to channelize. We are able to actually spread it towards the masses. And our universities and research institutions, as said, they are the powerhouses of knowledge. They are the ports where this whole thing is concentrated. They're entangled in many types of researchers with huge potential of creating value. Now, what I have done is, during the course of my today's talk, I have tried to bring in a lot of examples. Again, as said, I'm not going to talk about what is IP. I'm going to talk about what IP has done so far in different countries, so that we have examples, we have some aspiration to look beyond, to move forward and see what our universities and academia culture can lay the foundation for. So my first example for today is Professor Amnon Shashua. Now, friends, what I'm trying to do out here is bring in the academia stalwarts, the people who at one point of time are professor in the institutions. They are or they were teachers, and then they moved on and built conglomerates, world-renowned companies. Amnon Shashua from Israel. I'm not sure how many of you have heard of him. He is the co-founder and CEO of autonomous vehicle technology firm Mobileye. Now, why I took this firm? Mobileye is the highest ever rated and valuated and acquired from firm out of Brazil, out of Israel. It was acquired by Intel. So Amnon, he founded this company in '99, worked upon it. Just mark up the year 99, autonomous vehicle technology. Are we looking at the same platform today, or can we from our academia have this kind of a vision that in 2021, what we are researching upon would be coming or making the world better after 8, 10, 12, 15 years? Now, that happened in this case, 2014. It took 15 years for Mobileye to go into IPO phase, and it was acquired by Intel in $15.3 billion valuation. Company built by professor. A lot of examples are flowing in, and that's what again I am reiterating. It's about use cases, about examples. Other stuff, you all can go internet, you know what is IP. Amar Bose, we all are tuned to Bose speakers. Still unmatched quality, sound, mesmerizing, right? Electrical engineer, sound engineer, professor at MIT for over 45 years. Bose Corporation. Frank Thompson, professor of applied mathematics, CEO of Akamai Technologies, who are in algorithms or computer science space, must be aware of who he is. Quick snapshot. MathWorks, founded by Cleve Moller, professor at University of Michigan, Stanford, University of New Mexico. Boston Dynamics, founded by Mark Rybert, professor at MIT. Coursera, founded by Stephen Kohler, Andrew Ng, professor at Stanford. Broadcom, Henry Semele, professor at UCLA. Qualcomm, Andrew Viterbi, professor at UCLA and UCSD. Rambus, Mark Horowitz, professor at Stanford University. Ambiq Micro, founded by David Blow, University of Michigan. Aptum, founded by Hussein Hashmi, University of Southern California. Can you just see? Impact. And this is what, as Dr. Jere initially pointed out, our academia, our research institutions must learn to enter into, must learn to move towards to. How can we do like this? How can we shape our research culture into this scenario that after 5, 10, 8 years, we say X company with so much of valuation, with so much of valued IP is from X, Y, Z institutions of our cities, of our country. University research. Just look at the figure. Small things coming from our university setup, from university research. Seat built, Cornell University. Internet. Without internet, just imagine what would have world looked like during this pandemic scenario. I'm sure we would not have been talking then. But at the time when it was invented, when it came through, how many, and if you go and look around the anecdotes, what was there, it was like, who is going to use it? What is the use of this particular technology? And the similar stuff happened with when telephone came in, when lot many other things came in. But over the course of period, when people join hands together, when researchers join hands together, I believe enormous potential got generated over the year. Periodic tables, rocket fuel, and Gatorade, it is an energy drink. It was developed by researchers at University of Florida. Flu shots, and even today's what we are getting, the vaccines and other stuff. Many universities, they are having their hands in getting that particular vaccination drive to us or vaccines to us. We have chemotherapy drugs, we have CAT scan, we have solar power, we have ultrasound mechanism. So just I try to brought in front of you something which is making difference. Lot of technologies, innovations, they are there, but can we work in a direction where we make our societal needs met? You know, today morning I was going through, so that use case is not here. I didn't get time to put in. Otherwise, I would have loved to show you that very small video of 1.5 to 2 minutes. There is a company named as Socket, and the 3 girls from Harvard University, they founded that company a couple years ago. You know what they are doing? Actually, they sensed a problem that in the world, still there are places where electricity has not reached. How to solve that problem? They looked towards the soccer. It is the most played game anywhere in the world. People play in plenty. So what they did, they actually came up with a concept of a football which can generate energy out of it. It has a small socket, and that's why the name Socket, SOCCKET. So if you play 30 minutes with a football, you get somewhere around 2 to 3 hours of one small wattage bulb or a tube kind of energy, and that actually it can light a small room and students, they can study. What a novel idea. Many things are happening, many things are possible, and I'm sure like while today we browse thanks to this internet age, got a lot of innovation we come across. That is fine, that is really good. But on the contrary, how many of us know what to protect and when to protect? Have we ever thought of why there is a need or when there is a need to proceed for authorship or to proceed for inventorship? That is by writing a paper or by filing a patent. As in academics, we need to certainly understand this. The data or next two slides, which I am going to present, Dr. Jere has emphasized on this data. He actually mentioned it. This is the PCT data released by WIPO, because of which we are celebrating even today's IP Day as well. WIPO only declared World IP Day. Number, see the difference. PCT applications filed at China, 14,661. And just to let you know, 2019, this number decreased by 9% in China. 2018, it was more. USA, 6,21,453. India, 53,627. And out of those, around 68% were made by non-residents. Now, if you very quickly compute, I believe we are left with close to 18 to 19,000 of applications which are filed by residents of this country out of 53,627. Number of publications. Again, a very same story. If we look around, total number of publications, quality of research, that becomes a question. Very similar data, but few more countries, they are included. Number 3 spot claimed by Japan with 3,07,969. Just look at it. A country which was war torn, a country, a lot of earthquakes, a country which faced hardships. Where are they in research? Republic of Korea, 2,18,975. And then there stands India. I very strongly believe we need to change this. We need to change this mindset. And from 53,627, we certainly need to catch up in that 14,661 figure somewhere. At least we should climb up a couple of places out. But until and unless we create a culture, we understand why it is important after all, not how it is to be done or what it is, why, then I'm sure we will certainly be able to climb up. Revenue of a couple of universities across the world. Only universities I'm saying. There is no company out there, but I have tried to put in the source from where I have taken it. In parentheses, you can see a lot of drugs. They are there, like anti-epileptic, Northwestern University, $1.3 billion. Then Stanford University, Google, $336 million. University of Wisconsin, chip technology, 344. Then the University of Florida, the energy drink, which I was mentioning about, 288 million. Now, again, here, one very good thing, or rather one point I would like to make. You know, faculty members or students, many a times they come and they ask, that is my research. Whether it belongs to university or institution. Certainly it is. Certainly. And if you look around and if you look, see what it says, stock sale. Stanford received shares of Google stock in exchange for search algorithm patent license. That's how it is. You are working in a university setup, you are working with a team, it belongs to the university, and what is a harm in sharing and making a collaborative ecosystem whereby everybody gains out of it? That institution is your alma mater, or the institution is your workplace. We need to very genuinely, very ethically think about it. Moving forward, like to again bring in some couple of interesting stories built around this whole innovation or IP ecosystem, how it transformed some cities across the world, and then what we can do, what we are supposed to do, and how we can take it forward in our country's perspective or in our ecosystem, how we can take it forward. For decades, our professors or the teaching community or the students, we do have the lasting impact on economic development surrounding the colleges and universities. You must have seen even whenever there is a setup of a university, a lot of small businesses, they come up. That's how it is. And I still remember there was I was talking to chairman and the vice chancellor of one university. They were telling me, the businesses around our campus as such, they ask and they take university calendar from us that when are the vacation period, when are the off days going to happen, because their only source of income is university. That's how it happens in our country, right? Majority of the places. Now, have you ever thought of, and many of the universities or campuses, they actually are doing, if we develop a startup ecosystem around that academic setup, like we have a lot of prolific incubation centers, of late they came up around the country. Now just imagine how things are transforming over there when startup ecosystem is being built. And that's what happened in Silicon Valley and even in Boston. So now when we say if somebody, or I have taken the example out here, the city leaders, they want to bring in fast growing companies to attract capital or reward investors, instead just focus on the local university or the institution mechanism or the professors, what they are doing, and they try to harness their startup capabilities, try to build that startup ecosystem over there so that local economies start flourishing. And a very good example of this is none other than Professor Frederick Terman. And I'm taking you to year 1920s, I believe, mid-1920s. Now, what has happened? A young Frederick Terman, he finished his PhD from MIT, moved to Stanford, and there a lot of fruit orchards and other thing was there. Now, during his MIT days, he learned how a faculty member can nurture the young birds and can form the startups out there. Now, what he did, taking clue from his own inspiration, he pushed two of his students, William Hewlett and David Packard. I'm sure you would be able to relate to what I'm talking to. William Hewlett and David Packard to start the Hewlett-Packard in 1939, almost 90 years ago. Now that started happening, and then through his own contacts, he started getting them some projects, some contracts, and in Silicon Valley, HP started, and through that HP's culture, other companies started happening. Again, you will be, I'm sure a few of you must be aware of, and those who are not, Apple's co-founder, Steve Wozniak, he was an HP engineer. Then what HP started doing, whenever they reached to 1,000 number, they used to start another division and they used to start build ecosystem around us. In a very similar fashion, what has happened? There was another founder, a Nobel Prize winner in semiconductor space, it's William Shockley. Now he started and founded his company nearby Stanford. From that company, few of the engineers, rather 8 best engineers from Shockley company, he moved out. They moved out. They started Fairchild Semiconductor, and then from Fairchild Semiconductor, some moved out. They started Intel. Now can you envision how this whole ecosystem started developing in 1 to 2 to 3 to X to Y to Z overall, and then everywhere across that particular belt, companies started coming up. Professors, they came up with their ideas, they built on their teams from the students, and then they moved on. Lot of IP started generating in, and that's how even universities, they started earning in. Because professors, they are of the university, students, they are of the universities, they are doing something together. Yes, they have that kind of policy frameworks, they have that kind of officers or the mechanism in place whereby appropriate IP or sharing mechanism can happen, and these people can move out and start their own companies. And I very strongly believe that is something which we have to build around here. Then we can have n number of success stories, n number of startup cities across India. It's not like we invite companies to form. It's like companies start taking birth out of that local ecosystem. And that's why it is being said, this city belongs to X company, this city belongs to Y company, right? The role of IP in academia, as I said, universities and our research institutions, they are factories of the knowledge economy. And IP, it adds another mechanism for these universities to disseminate the knowledge that they generate or to have that knowledge used in the economic sector. Can you just envision how much amount of IP is being generated daily in our academic system? If we just start collating, if we just start relating, it's humongous. And in India, if we just relate, we have around 1,000 universities, we have around, in totality, 40,000 plus institutions. Every day, nook and corner, now even in today's scenario, we are having this online webinars or sessions and whatnot. Just imagine the amount of knowledge being exchanged, the amount of ideas being generated, the amount of concepts being made. But where are they heading to? What are we doing of those ideas? What are we doing from that kind of knowledge which is being shared, which is being generated? We need to understand that IP is essential for both research and even for teaching function of our universities. Now, be it our applied research or be it generated from our publications or new research in chemical labs or our any confidential informations or even our structure documents, our curriculum documents, our programs in the labs, IP exists everywhere. It exists everywhere. We need to institutionalize it. And that's where I would be harnessing it today. I would be pressing the stress or the need today that what we are supposed to do. As I said, what universities or institutions, they should own the IP in a manner that it should be flexible enough. The inventors or the researchers who are working, they should have that kind of hand to move out, to start a company, to grow it together. Universities or institutions, they in turn get benefit. Students, they get more and more employment. More and more students learn how to become an entrepreneur or entrepreneurs. A sort of collaboration starts happening over there. And that is the kind of ecosystem I believe we strongly should encourage. And as I was highlighting, that an academic institution, even from our teaching activities, see print publications, our thesis, our software, our films, sound recordings, computer presentations, multimedia works, notes, whatsoever you are doing, they are all under the purview of IP. These examples are primarily copyrights, the books being written by our researchers or the faculty members. But now when we say internet and the modern technologies, the advancement of these technologies, what it has done is barriers has been removed. We are able to talk to more and more people. We are able to interact with researchers across the globe. But On the contrary, we are also able to access others' research as well, others' reports as well, others' data points as well. Very genuinely, very ethically, we need to learn, we need to know how to use it, what to do of this kind of knowledge which belongs to someone else, how to give due credit to that particular person. We need to look around those kind of scenarios. And there, like we say, food for thought, I said thought for IP. Generally, what we do, we say our university, they establish, or academic institutions, they establish linkages between industries and the businesses, and then they are being promoted locally, and then they move further to provide the kind of solution, or the research generally is being sponsored by the local research houses. That was the earlier system. Today, again, because of the information age, a lot of center of excellences, they are being established, and exchange of this IP is happening across. But still, what is the gap? Where we are missing? Are our institutions or academia or students or faculty members or research scholars, they are prepared how to use that kind of IP? Now here, I would like to talk about research management and IP. So what in the developing economies, what used to happen, or primarily what is happening? Neither promotion nor protection. IP, it is making waves in particular from itself, popular programs as Dr. Jere mentioned and Dr. Ellen. We are trying to put in IPR in UG, PG, and even for PhD students, just like we learn research methodologies. Why not to talk about what is IP? It is just like a moral studies we used to teach our school grade students, first or second class, I believe. Understanding of IP is far more important. Then the major issue we do not understand is lack of our institutional IP policies. We do have our national IP policy in our country. And very soon, Dr. Jere and I, we were discussing, and I'm sure in our existing NISP, we would be coming up with or trying to answer this, how to institutionalize IP policy for an organization and why it is important. Now, what is happening over there? You know, researchers, even students and faculty members who all are there. And I'm not, I'm counting myself in as well. Overall, what we try to look in, the immediate economic gains. But at what cost? At the expense of something which has a long-term value, which can be captured by, or if we have a very well built-in IP system. For a short term, we are looking at it, we are publishing our papers, we are not even able to gauge in or garner that how and why this IP can build on further. Changing research landscapes, yes, that is. Now, I have tried to put in the problems, what is happening, the solution for all these things, that why IP is important and how it can be made more systematically imbibed in our culture, in our academic ecosystem. I believe there we have to have some IP management office, which I say through our IICs, we do have an option there. What we need to learn in our universities, in our academics, there has to have a way to tap the value for research, to provide the additional incentives for those researchers who are moving into the direction towards IP. There are cases we know, we are aware, where still, you know, universities, they are saying research paper has not been published. What if when you have a granted patent? But just imagine the scenario. A paper you submit being reviewed and it gets published. Patent you file to a patent office of a particular country. It goes through the whole prosecution process, the examination process. It takes a couple of years to get that patent granted? Certainly, there has to have a policy of that, how how you compare. You cannot compare an apple and orange. You need to have a kind of framework, and certainly we are working on it. We need to have linkages between SMEs, between private sector, between startups, whereby this IP sharing mechanism can happen. And if an institute is working on a very strong IP, just mark my words, there is no dearth of funding as well from private sector. And that's what I always say, that our institutions, we say a lot of about that. This is upskilling, there are jobs and there are whatnot. So we are talking about innovation culture. We are talking about entrepreneurship. Why can't we build on a research culture that is IP based in a manner that industry comes to an academia and asks that what is novel being built in your labs, so that we can take it, we can move around. You know, there is, I was talking to one of my friends, and there is an institution across the borders. What they are doing is they have a culture, they have put in small boxes around the campus. Whosoever is facing X kind of a problem, they write it down, they put in there. The institute then collects that problem statements. They have a committee to vet those problem statements up for what the solutions can be provided. Their team, that they work around the best kind of solution which can be provided. And then they let those problem and even solution open, and then they invite people. Invite those teams who have the neck of startup, who want to build something. So I say, I have a problem, I have a solution, but are you ready to take up this challenge, and can you come on and set up? So this is a call for incubation center. If something like this can be built upon around your innovation ecosystem across. But for that, again, IP has to be protected. Your IP management, what I started off with, that IPMO, I generally say the concept I use. I see a dearth or a very handful of institutions in our country. They do have this. So IP cells, I'm sure many of your institutions are having. Now, the primary job it starts with IP audits, to understand where our IP stands, where our IP is moving in, what we do, where this IP caters to, how much of this IP is can be generated through the project reports which our students are putting in. Are they publishing some kind of reports, that whether these are copied, whether these are taken from other sources, whether some X institution has done a similar kind of research and we are taking through, whether an institutional IP portfolio has been generated, whether that particular institution or our lab has concentrated into a particular direction. This whole IP audit has to be done. And through our program itself, I'm sure certainly we are going to lay down these under the policy. But for all the listeners who are doing that, even the industry, the university leaders who are attending today, my request is, please try to have this kind of culture institutionalized over there in your campus. You need to have IP audits. You need to have IP strategy based on those audits, like where to focus upon. Once you do the IP audit, you can certainly come up that our institution's research focus is that your reports will speak about. But then you need to work around the strategy where the failure is, where even if it is like, and I'm sure everybody agrees, 60 to 70% of the reports or the thesis, it's just like earlier it was whole through verbatim copied, now they are inspired, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. So you need to just move beyond that kind of culture. How can you do that? You need to institutionalize your IP policy, IP guidelines. You need to have this infrastructure like IP office. You need to put in IP curriculum, which we have taken the charge for. And very soon through our SWAM platform, you will be getting the links and you'll be getting the whole IP curriculum being offered for UG, PG, and PhD in sequenced manner. And this IP policy, certainly, it should harness the key issues, not only for your faculty members, for your students, for your researchers, what benefits they should get, the scope of, who all are covered, ownership of IP to which it will rest. In our NISP, these are covered, and we are going to expand it further in very next version coming soon. So processes, operationalization, transfer and commercialization of IP assets, what happens when, how. benefit sharing schemes, enforcement of that particular IP, what happens if dispute settlement. Every institution, they must look into, they must work towards establishing a strong, like let us suppose if your PhD students, they are coming up with IP generation. Are you happy with filing their papers, or are you happy with, or will you motivate them filing more and more patents, or if they are able to get a couple of them granted, which is more beneficial? Institutions must form guidelines, must form those committees to work around. This particular IPM, even at the university level, we need to have a very strong culture, licensing in, licensing out. Licensing in means, as in I said, many of technologies, many of the softwares, many of the papers, many of the brands, many of other things we are utilizing in our university ecosystem, but we are not at all aware of that what kind of IP we are infringing upon. The way awareness is spreading, this, as I'm sure soon it will become a mandatory process. We need to understand. We need to understand to give the credits to the people, to the inventor, to the person whom that IP belongs to, right? And to do that, we certainly need to form a kind of a culture, a kind of potential partnership across the whole ecosystem. That's what, and the compliances, the reports, our lab notes, what not we need to follow around. We all should capture in a particular manner. This whole ecosystem should be made stronger at the institution or a university level. Yep, as far as the policies are coming in, as far as the guidelines are coming in, obviously the challenges are there. Mindset, budgetary constraints, long payback period in IP, conflict of interests is there, or non-existence or minimalistic enforcement of national IP policy framework as well. So in our country, 2016, we had that national IP policy. And last year, we came up with our national innovation startup policy. And during that, I'm sure very soon the addendum would be coming in for this IP. Now, this your IP office must take care for the university culture, where and how to take it. So overall, the thing I believe must move around this innovation management culture, knowledge-based economy. Till the time we believe that we have to reach to this 5 trillion, we need to harness our research potential in a manner that overall capitalization can be taken care of, valuation can be derived from this kind of IP-based ecosystem. So the conclusion, to conclude, what I'll say is RNG operate in a fast-changing and complex business environment. Our IP property, it needs to be defined in a very proper manner. We need to have a self-sustained kind of a culture. Universities must learn, or academic institutions must learn how to generate more and more revenue out of the IP which is being made. And on the contrary, our researchers and the students, they must also understand the part that what their alma mater or what their parent institutions they are playing to in building that culture over there. So I would like to stop over here. Thanks for listening me, and I'm sure those who would have joined with the thought that I would be taking an IP class today, my apologies. And on the contrary, once again, wishing all the listeners a very, very happy World IP Day. Keep inventing, keep protecting your IP, and once again, make this world a wonderful place to live in. And I'm sure all of you are keeping safe wherever you are under these testing times. And I hope it will pass very soon, and we'll start mingling and moving around each other. Thanks so much. Thank you. Alan?
Yeah, yes, sir. Thank you, sir. It was a very informative speech. More than 5,000 faculties and students have been joined from different parts of our country. So it was very informative, connecting from the ideas, research, and how universities have professors been initiated the startup, and how they're earning from their IPs. All this will be sure and eye-opening to all the faculties and students who have been part of this particular program. Once again, I thank for sparing your quality time for addressing to our faculties and students. Now, on behalf of Ministry of Education's Innovation Cell and AICT, I thank once again Dr. Abhay sir and Dr. Mohit Gambhir, who have been part of this particular program as an expert speakers. and faculties and students who have been joined from different part of the country. Once again, thank you for being part of the program. I'm looking forward for to you to connect to future more many more programs of such kind, which will be shortly organized by Innovation Cell. Once again, thank you all, and signing off from you is Dr. Langavan, Assistant Innovation Director from Ministry of Education Innovation Cell. Thank you all. Thank you.